I did my SAE project on my garden, and what I grew was carrots, radishes, garlic, and cilantro. I got a self-watering planter for my carrots, and I chose the little finger carrots so that they wouldn't grow too big. And then for my radishes, I grew them in this pot, and my cilantro was this bag that you could fill in with dirt and water, and it grew in the pouch. My carrots were petite, sweet little fingers, and they grew pretty well. They took 3 months to grow, and I had to move them to a shadier part of my backyard because the sunlight became too much for them and they started to die. But once I moved them into the shade, they grew right back. And every so often I would have to pluck out some carrots that were growing really close to the other ones. But overall, they grew really well. This is the ladybug that we found, and I put him in my carrot garden because they're good for gardens, and he's very cute. My carrots grew pretty well. These two are what I picked out the other day. The rest are still growing right now, and I fed them to my dogs, and the first one hated them. He spit it right out. And my second one really liked it, and she ended up tearing it apart in the backyard while she was eating it. Next to my radishes, they grew okay when they first started growing. They grew super fast, and when I had to move them over to the shadier part of my yard as well. But the sun was still kind of too much for them, and they started to die. And I was trying to put them in the shade and give them more water, but they weren't getting any bigger, and so I decided to have to take them out and just eat them when they were small. They started to grow very fast, and then they slowed down and stopped getting as big as they were supposed to. This is as big as they got, and I didn't really get a lot of them because it had gotten really hot by this point, and the rest of them just kind of died. This is my cilantro. It grew really well. I put it on a windowsill upstairs, and it grew super fast, and before I knew it, they were outgrowing their pouch. It took about 8 weeks for them to grow fully, and then when we used the cilantro, the day after, I went outside and they were completely shriveled up and dead because that was the day it had gotten really hot, and it was too much for them and they died. So that was the end of my cilantro. We did get to eat some of it, but I wish it had grown a little bit better. I had to cut open their pouch and put them in a pot next to my radishes because they were really outgrowing what the bag they were in. Next is my garlic, and I got this garlic and I decided to put it in a cup of water, and it started sprouting roots, so I put it in the ground and then it started growing. Once the sun got hot again, that one kind of started dying too. It grew really slowly, but I kept watering it and it was growing a little bit. But once the sun got hot, I tried to move it into the shade and it ended up dying a little bit too. It's still out in my backyard, so I'm trying to just keep it out there and water it, and hopefully it will not all the way die. And that was my SAE.